The first sound was an explosion. It wasn't a weapon discharge or a structural failure. It was a rhythm, a deep, resonant pulse rolled to the hollow corridors of Selene-9 Medical Orbital, vibrating through reinforced alloy walls and into the bones of everyone still trapped inside. It wasn't loud, not in the way war was loud. It was worse than that. It was precise, measured, repeating, and every time it pulsed, something on the station shut down. Lights flickered, then died. Surgical AIs froze mid-procedure. Life support monitors stuttered like they were trying to breathe through water. Outside the observation windows, the gas giant Virex loomed in silent indifference, its storm bands twisting slowly as if nothing was happening at all. Containment breach confirmed. The automated system finally managed to say, its voice lagging behind reality by several seconds. Unidentified biological mass has overridden lower ward security. Military response authorized. That was when the soldiers raised their weapons. They didn't hesitate. They didn't ask questions. They had seen the footage. The same classified clips replayed across command channels for the past 3 cycles. Entire warships drifting lifeless in space. Blackened hulls. Systems fried from the inside out. No survivors. No distress calls. Just that same rhythm. They had named it already. Planet Killer. Down in the fractured lower ward. Something massive moved beneath layers of collapsed infrastructure, its presence warping the air itself. Bulkheads bent inward, as if pulled by invisible gravity. The floor plating groaned. A low glow pulsed through the cracks. Soft at first, almost blue, then shifting toward a strained, flickering white. "Fire on my mark," the alien commander ordered, his voice steady despite the tremor running through the deck beneath his boots. "We do not let it reach the surface levels." Across the chamber, behind a shattered triage station, Lieutenant Mara Ilyan wasn't looking at the creature. She was listening. Another pulse rolled through the station, stronger this time. The soldiers braced, tightening their grips on particle rifles calibrated to disintegrate armored starships. Someone whispered a prayer in a language Mara didn't recognize. She didn't pray. She tilted her head slightly, eyes narrowing, as if trying to hear something buried beneath the chaos. "Wait," she said. No one heard her. Or maybe they did and chose not to respond. The commander's arm lifted, targeting systems locked. Red markers painted the twisted remains of the lower ward. "Mark. Stop." The word cracked through the chamber, sharp enough to cut through fear itself. Every weapon hesitated, not lowered, not disengaged, but paused. Just enough. Mara stepped forward before anyone could stop her, boots crunching over shattered instruments and broken glass. She didn't reach for a weapon. She didn't even bother sealing her suit fully. The environmental warning screamed across her wrist display, flashing radiation alerts, pressure instability, biohazard contamination. She ignored all of it. Another pulse came. This time, she closed her eyes. There was again, not random, not destructive, structured, almost patterned. "Do you hear that?" she asked quietly, though no one had answered her yet. "Lieutenant," the commander snapped, anger sharpening his tone. "Return to position. That thing has wiped out fleets." "It is not." "It's not attacking," she cut in, her voice low but unshakable. That got their attention. A ripple of disbelief moved through the soldiers. Someone laughed, short, harsh, disbelieving. "It just tore through 3 containment layers," one of them said. "What do you call that?" Mara didn't turn. "Panic," she replied. Another pulse. Stronger now. Closer. The floor buckled slightly beneath her feet, and for the first time, the thing beneath the debris shifted enough to be seen. A massive shape. Not fully visible. Not yet. But there was movement, slow, deliberate, and wrong in a way that made the mind recoil. Armor-like plating slid against itself, emitting faint, grinding echoes. Light bled through the gaps, flickering unevenly, and then, just for a moment, it stopped. Completely, as if it knew she was there. Mara took another step forward, ignoring the collective intake of breath behind her. "Lower your weapons," she said. No one moved. "Lieutenant, that is a direct." "If you fire," she said louder now, something fierce rising beneath her calm. You won't be stopping a monster. The commander's eyes narrowed. Then what exactly do you think it is? Mara opened her eyes slowly, gaze fixed on the fractured darkness ahead. The next pulse came, weaker than the last. Not stronger, weaker. And for the first time, she understood why. "It's calling out," she said. Silence fell over the chamber, heavy and suffocating. Another shift beneath the debris. A faint, strained glow flickered, then dimmed. The soldiers adjusted their aim, uncertain now, hesitation creeping in where certainty had been. "Calling out for what?" someone whispered. Mara didn't answer immediately, because she wasn't sure they were ready to hear it. Her gaze softened just slightly as the rhythm faltered again, no longer steady, no longer controlled. Breaking. "Not for help?" she said finally, her voice barely above a breath. The glow dimmed further. Another pulse, fractured this time. Uneven. Wrong. Mara took one more step into the kill zone, heart steady in a way that didn't make sense. Not even her. "No," she whispered. Her eyes locked onto the shifting mass as something deep within it moved. Something smaller, something hidden. And suddenly, the pattern made sense. It's looking for something. Behind her, the commander's grip tightened on his weapon. Or someone. The debris shifted again. And this time, something inside the creature moved back. The hesitation didn't last long. "Enough!" the commander snapped, forcing control back into his voice as if the moment of doubt had never existed. "We are not rewriting threat assessments based on a guess." But it wasn't a guess anymore. Mara could feel it. The rhythm came again. Fainter, strained, like something struggling to hold itself together. And every instinct she had trained for battle told her to step back. Every instinct she had learned as a human told her to step forward. "They told you it destroyed fleets," she said, not turning around, her eyes still fixed on the fractured mass ahead. "Did they show you how?" "That information is classified," the commander replied immediately. "Then I'll ask a better question," she said, her voice steady but cutting now. "Did anyone ever find a weapon signature?" Silence answered her. Behind her, the soldiers shifted slightly, exchanging glances. It was subtle, but it was there. The first crack in certainty. "They didn't," Mara continued, stepping closer to collapsed structure. Heat pressed against her skin now, not burning, but heavy, like standing too close to a living engine. "Because there isn't one. That thing shut down entire fleets," one of the soldiers said, though his voice carried less conviction than before. "You don't do that without a weapon." Mara shook her head slowly. "You do if you're not trying to destroy anything," she said. "You do if you're trying to be heard." Another pulse rippled outward, weaker again. The lights above flickered, but didn't fail this time. Systems tried to respond, stuttering but holding. It was as if whatever force had been overwhelming the station was losing strength. "Commander!" A technician's voice cutting over the comms, trembling but clear. "We're picking up something unusual from the lower ward emissions." "Define unusual," the commander demanded. "It's not random," the technician said. "There's structure, repeating intervals. Almost like a signal." Mara finished quietly. The commander's jaw tightened. "Everything is a signal if you stare at it long enough." "No," the technician replied, more confident now. "This is different. It's not just repeating. It's degrading, like the source is failing." Mara exhaled slowly. That matched what she was seeing, what she was feeling. Another shift in the debris sent a cascade of shattered plating sliding to the side, revealing more of the creature beneath. It was larger than anyone had expected, larger than the reports, larger than the projections. Its outer structure looked less like flesh and more like something engineered by nature to survive impossible pressure, layered in overlapping segments that flexed with each strained movement. But it wasn't the size that held Mara's attention. It was what wasn't moving. One section of its body remained rigid, almost protected, while the rest of it strained and shifted around it. Every time it moved, it adjusted, subtly, carefully, as if shielding something vital or something fragile. "Thermal scan just came through," the technician said again, urgency creeping into his tone. "Commander, there's a concentration of energy along the creature's core." Prepare to target it. The commander ordered instantly, if that's a weak point. It's not a weak point, Mara said sharply. The commander's patience snapped. Lieutenant, you are out of line. It's stabilizing something, she interrupted. Finally turned to face him. There was no fear in her expression now, only certainty. Look at the readings. The energy isn't building, it's regulating. The technician hesitated, then spoke again. She's right. The output spikes, then drops. It's compensating for something internal. Internal damage? One of the soldiers suggested. Mara shook her head. No, she said softly. Not damage. Another pulse came. But this time, it didn't spread outward in a wave. It collapsed inward. The effect was immediate. The faint glow along the creature's surface flickered violently, then dimmed further, leaving only scattered traces of light bleeding through its armored structure. It's running out of time, Mara whispered. Or it's preparing something, the commander countered, though Evie sounded less certain now. Mara didn't respond. Instead, she turned back toward the creature and took another step forward, crossing an invisible threshold where every weapon behind her was still trained, still ready, still waiting for the order to fire. Nothing stopped her. No alarms escalated. No sudden attack came. The massive shape shifted again, slower now, heavier, as if each movement cost more than the last. And then, without warning, the rhythm changed. It wasn't steady anymore. It broke. A jagged, uneven pulse tore through the station, weaker than anything before it, but far more violent in its instability. Systems sparked. Panels shorted. The air itself seemed to distort for a fraction of a second. Several soldiers flinched, raising their weapons instinctively. "Commander, we can't hold this," one of them said. "If that thing destabilizes completely." "It won't," Mara said. They all looked at her. She didn't look back, because in that fractured pulse, in that collapsing rhythm, she had heard something new, not just strain, not just pain, something sharper, something desperate. Her breath caught for just a moment as she pieced it together. "It's not just calling out," she said slowly. Another weak pulse flickered through the station, barely strong enough to register. But it's not failing either. The commander frowned. Then what is it doing? Mara's eyes locked onto the section of the creature that hadn't moved, the one that had been protecting this entire time, the one that pulsed differently. Out of sync. "It's trying to hold something together," she said. The technician's voice returned, more urgent now. "Commander, there's a second energy signature." Silence. "A second what?" the commander asked. "It's faint," the technician said. "Almost hidden, but it's there, separate from the main biological mass." Mara didn't wait for confirmation. She already knew. Her voice dropped to a whisper, barely audible over the failing hum of the station. "It's not alone." Behind her, weapons lowered, just slightly, not in surrender, but in uncertainty. Another shift in the debris revealed a deeper layer of the creature's core, and this time, the glow didn't come from the massive body itself. It came from something smaller, something buried, something that pulsed, weak, erratic, and dangerously close to going dark. Mara took a slow step closer, her heartbeat steady against the chaos around her, and for the first time since the alarms began, she understood the real danger. Not what the creature might do, but what would happen if it stopped trying. The closer Mara moved, the quieter everything became. It wasn't actual silence. The station was still groaning under stress, systems still sputtering, distant alarms still trying to reassert control. But around her, near the creature, those sounds seemed pushed aside, as if the space itself was being shaped by something deeper than physics. Another fractured pulse trembled through the floor beneath her boots. Weaker, too weak. Mara slowed, not out of fear, but because something about the air had changed. It felt heavier now, not with pressure, but with intent. Every step forward felt like crossing into territory that wasn't meant for anything small, anything fragile, anything human. Behind her, the soldiers didn't follow. They didn't fire either. They watched. For the first time since the breach, they weren't looking at a target. They were looking at a question. "Mara," the commander's voice came through, lower now, stripped of its earlier certainty. "If you're wrong." "I'm not," she said without turning. And she wasn't, because now she could see it clearly. The debris had shifted enough to expose part of the creature's inner structure. Not flesh, not in any familiar sense, but something layered and complex, a living architecture designed to endure forces that would crush entire planets. Segmented plates overlapped with precise symmetry, flexing in subtle patterns that matched the fading rhythm. But deeper inside, where the glow was weakest, something else moved, not in response to her, not in response to the soldiers, but in response to the pulses themselves. Mara's breath caught. It wasn't random. It was trying to answer. "Do you see it?" she asked quietly. No one replied at first. Then the technician's voice came through again, shaky but focused. I think so. The secondary signature. It's reacting to the primary pulses. There's feedback between them." "Not feedback," Mara said. She stepped closer. The heat intensified, prickling across her skin, but she ignored it. Her eyes remained locked on the faint, flickering glow buried within the creature's core. "It's synchronization," she said. Another pulse came, barely more than a whisper now, and for a fraction of a second, the smaller glow inside flickered in response. Out of sync, delayed, failing to match. Mara felt something twist in her chest. "Come on," she murmured under her breath, though she didn't know who she was speaking to. "Stay with it." The commander exhaled sharply. "Lieutenant, explain." Martin looked back. Instead, she crouched slightly, lowering herself, not as a gesture of submission, not as a tactic, but instinctively, the same way she had approached wounded civilians under fire. "You ever see what happens when a system tries to stabilize something that's collapsing?" she asked. No answer. She continued anyway. "It burns everything that's trying to keep it alive." Another pulse, even weaker. The glow along the creature's outer plating dimmed further, flickering unevenly now, like a dying star. But the inner signal, the smaller one, spiked for just a moment, then faltered again. "Commander," the technician said, urgency rising. "The secondary signature is degrading faster than the primary. If it drops below threshold." "What happens?" the commander demanded. There was a pause. Then, "I don't know," the technician admitted. "But the main organism is diverting more and more energy toward it. It's sacrificing stability." Mara closed her eyes for a brief second. That was it. That was everything. When she opened them again, there was no hesitation left. "It's not attacking," she said firmly. "It's protecting." A ripple moved through the soldiers behind her, uncertainty turning into something sharper now, something harder to ignore. "Protecting what?" one of them asked. Mara didn't answer immediately, because the answer was right in front of her. She took another step forward, now close enough to feel the subtle vibrations beneath the creature's outer structure. Not violent, not aggressive, but strained. Each movement carried a weight that spoke of exhaustion, not fury. And then, slowly, carefully, the massive form shifted again. Not toward her, not toward the soldiers, but away. Just enough to expose what it had been shielding. A gap opened between overlapping plates, revealing a deeper layer beneath. The glow there was faint. So faint it almost disappeared against the darkness, but it was different from the rest. Softer, unstable, alive in a way that didn't match the massive organism surrounding it. Mara stepped into the opening without thinking. "Mara, don't," the commander started. She ignored him, because now she could see it clearly. The second form wasn't embedded. It wasn't part of the larger body. It was separate, smaller, curled inward, surrounded by protective layers that had been forcibly held in place by the larger creature's structure. Its surface flickered with uneven light, pulsing weakly, struggling to maintain coherence. And every time it faltered, the larger creature's entire body reacted, tensing, shifting, redirecting energy back toward it. Mara's throat tightened. "Oh," she whispered. Behind her, the technician's voice rose again, almost disbelieving. That's not a secondary organ. That's an independent biological unit." The commander went silent, completely silent. Mara took another step closer, her movement slow now, deliberate. The smaller form twitched faintly, its glow stuttering as if reacting to her presence, or perhaps just reacting to the failing pulses around it. She lowered herself further, one knee brushing against the scorched floor, her eyes fixed on the fragile, flickering light. Another pulse came, barely there. The smaller form didn't respond this time. Mara felt it like a physical blow. "No," she said softly. Behind her, weapons shifted again, but not in preparation to fire. In uncertainty. In doubt. "Commander," the technician said, voice tight with tension. "If that secondary unit collapses, the primary organism may experience catastrophic feedback. We could be looking at a total energy release event." "How long?" the commander asked. "I don't know," the technician replied. "Minutes, maybe less." Mara didn't react to words. She was too focused on the faint, failing glow in front of her, because now she understood something else. Something worse. The pulses hadn't just been communication. They had been synchronization attempts. The larger creature wasn't calling out. It was trying to keep the smaller one alive. And it was losing. Mara slowly lifted her hand, hesitating for the first time. Not out of fear, but because she knew what came next would change everything. Behind her, the commander's voice came again, quieter now, uncertain in a way she had never heard before. "Mara, what is it?" She didn't look back. Her hand hovered inches from a faint glow, close enough to feel the unstable energy flickering against her skin. And then, finally, she answered. "It's not just protecting it," she said. The smaller form flickered again. Weaker. Fading. Mara's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's trying to save its child." And for the first time since the breach began, the massive creature moved toward her. The movement should have triggered immediate fire. It didn't. Every soldier in that chamber had trained for this exact moment. The instant a classified threat shifted toward a vulnerable target, the protocols were clear. Reaction times measured in fractions of a second. No hesitation. No interpretation. But nothing about this situation followed protocol anymore. The massive creature didn't lunge. It didn't strike. It leaned, slowly, heavily, its immense structure adjusting with a precision that felt almost deliberate, almost careful. The fractured plating around its core shifted outward, widening the gap where Mara knelt. The faint glow of the smaller form flickered again, barely holding together. And the creature, this thing that had been labeled a planetary extinction event, lowered itself just enough to bring that fragile core closer to her. "Mara," the commander's voice was no longer sharp. It was strained. "Step back." She didn't move, because now she could feel it. Not the heat, not the pressure. Something else. A rhythm. Faint, uneven, struggling to maintain cohesion. It wasn't just the creature's pulse anymore. It was layered. Two signals, overlapping, colliding, trying and failing to align. One strong but weakening. One fragile and slipping away. "She's dying," Mara said quietly. The word landed like a fracture through the room. "She," one of the soldiers echoed. Mara didn't answer him. Her eyes remained fixed on the flickering light within the protective structure. The smaller form trembled faintly, its glow collapsing inward, then flaring weakly as if trying to hold itself together through sheer instinct. Behind her, the technician's voice broke through again, faster now, more urgent. "Commander, energy redistribution just spiked. The primary organism is dumping everything it has into that secondary unit." "How much?" the commander demanded. "Everything," the technician replied. "If this continues, the main body will destabilize completely." Mara swallowed hard. Of course it would. That was the pattern. That was the rhythm she had heard from the beginning. It wasn't just a call. It was a system burning itself alive to keep something else from going dark. "Lieutenant," the commander said, and now there was something else in his voice, something close to realization. "If the primary collapses, the station goes with it." Mara finished. Silence. Then, "Evacuation protocols." The commander snapped, snapping back into control, though the tension in his tone betrayed the shift. "All non-essential personnel." "No." The word came from Mara, quiet but absolute. The commander's patience shattered. "That is not your call." "If you evacuate now," she said, finally turning her head just enough for her voice to carry clearly across the chamber, you lose the only chance to stop it. The soldiers froze again, because she wasn't wrong. They all knew it. What are you suggesting? The commander asked, more carefully this time. Mara looked back at the fragile glow in front of her. It flickered again. Weaker. Whatever's happening inside her, Mara said slowly, choosing each word, is what's destabilizing everything, not the mother. You're assuming intent, the commander replied. I'm observing behavior. Mara shot back. She's not expanding. She's not escalating. She's collapsing inward. That's not an attack pattern. That's containment. The technician spoke again, voice tight. Commander, she's right about one thing. The energy spikes are localized. The primary organism is suppressing something, not amplifying it. Suppressing what? One of the soldiers asked. No one answered immediately, because the answer was already visible. Fading. Mara reached forward slightly, her hand hovering closer to the smaller form. The unstable light flickered against her skin, erratic, struggling to maintain coherence. It didn't react to her, not directly, but the larger creature did. A low vibration rippled through its structure, not aggressive, not warning, but something else, something strained, as if it was trying to decide. Commander! Another voice cut in, new, unfamiliar, sharp with authority. You are to disengage immediately. The entire chamber shifted. Mara didn't need to turn to know what that voice meant. Corporate. She closed her eyes briefly. Of course. They're early, she murmured. What? The commander asked. The answer came before she could respond. The blast doors at the far end of the chamber slid open with mechanical precision, revealing a group of figures in reinforced suits, sleek, polished, and completely out of place in the chaos of a failing medical station. At their center walked a man who didn't carry a weapon. He didn't need to. Commander Valen, he said smoothly, as if stepping into a routine inspection rather than an active containment breach. I trust you have the situation under control. Valen's jaw tightened. This is a restricted zone. You don't have clearance. I have ownership, the man interrupted, his tone calm, almost bored. And that supersedes your authority here. A ripple of tension moved through the soldiers. Mara didn't look back. She didn't need to, because she already knew what was coming. The organism, the man continued, stepping closer, his gaze fixed not on the massive creature, but on the faint glow within it, is classified under corporate reclamation rights. You are to stand down and allow retrieval operations to proceed. Retrieval? One of the soldiers repeated. The man smiled faintly. Yes, he said. We've been looking for it. Mara's hand clenched slightly. Looking for what? The commander demanded. The man's eyes flicked toward Mara for just a fraction of a second, then back to the glowing core. That, he said simply. The smaller form flickered again. Weaker. The technician's voice broke in, urgent now. Commander, if they interfere with the energy transfer, it collapses, Mara finished. The man's smile didn't change. On the contrary, he said, it stabilizes. Mara turned then, fully, her eyes locked onto his. That's not stabilization, she said quietly. It is, he replied, just not for her. The words hit harder than any weapon. A cold realization settled into place. The creature hadn't come here by accident. It hadn't been attacking fleets. It had been chasing something. And Mara's gaze snapped back to the fragile glow inside the creature, the flickering light, the failing pulse. No, she whispered. The man tilted his head slightly, watching her now with mild curiosity. Yes, he said. Behind him, his team began to move, equipment already deploying, devices activating with quiet efficiency. The larger creature reacted instantly, its entire structure tensed. The rhythm, faint as it was, spiked violently, not outward, inward, protecting. Mara felt in her chest like a second heartbeat, uneven and breaking. She didn't come here to attack, Mara said, her voice rising now, sharp with something close to anger. She came here because you took something from her. The man didn't deny it. He didn't even hesitate. Correct, he said. The glow inside the creature flickered again, barely there. And if you try to take it again, Mara said, stepping forward, placing herself between them and the exposed core without thinking. "You're going to kill both of them." The man's expression didn't change, but something behind his eyes did. A calculation, a decision already made. "That," he said calmly, "is an acceptable loss." The creature moved again, faster this time, not toward Mara, toward them. And every weapon in the room, human, alien, corporate, lifted at once. But this time, no one knew who they were aiming at. For a fraction of a second, everything aligned on the same trigger. Human rifles, alien cannons, corporate extraction units humming to life with quiet, surgical precision. And yet, no one fired, because the creature didn't attack. It folded. The massive structure of its body shifted inward with force that bent the surrounding metal like soft clay, its armor plates overlapping in a rapid, defensive cascade. The exposed core vanished behind layers of living armor as the entire organism compressed around it, forming a barrier that no weapon in that room could penetrate without catastrophic force. The pulse surged again, stronger than anything before, but it didn't spread. It locked inward, tightening around the fragile signal buried deep inside. Mara staggered slightly as the pressure hit her, not physical, but something deeper, like standing too close to a storm that wasn't meant for her. "She's bracing," she said, her voice strained, "or preparing to detonate." Commander Valen countered, though he didn't sound convinced anymore. Behind him, the corporate team didn't hesitate. "Deploy containment field." The man ordered calmly. A lattice of energy snapped into existence across the chamber, not aimed at the creature, but at the space around it. The geometry was precise, calculated, and terrifyingly efficient. Mara's eyes widened. "That's not containment," she said. The technician's voice came through immediately, panic rising. "Commander, that configuration, it's isolating the secondary signature." Of course it was. The man stepped forward slightly, watching the creature's defensive posture with clinical interest. "We don't need the host," he said. "Only the asset." The word hit harder than it should have. Asset, not life, not intelligence, not something worth saving. Just something valuable. Mara's mind snapped into place. Pieces connecting faster now, the pattern revealing itself with brutal clarity. "You didn't just take it," she said, her voice low. "Dangerous now. You built this around it." The man glanced at her again, just long enough to acknowledge the realization. "Close," he said. "We improved it." A chill ran through her. Another pulse hit, violent, unstable. And for the first time, the creature reacted not with control, but with strain. Its structure shuddered, the overlapping plates grinding against each other, as if something inside was pushing back, trying to break free from the protective shell. The glow flickered again, erratic, unstable. "Commander," the technician said urgently, "the secondary signal is spiking, but it's not matching primary anymore. It's diverging." "What does that mean?" Valen demanded. "It means," Mara said, stepping closer despite the rising pressure, "it's being forced out of sync." The man nodded slightly. "Correct," he said. "We're re-establishing control." "Control?" One of the soldiers repeated, disbelief breaking through. The man didn't look at him. "It was never meant to remain integrated," he said. "The host adapted beyond projected parameters." Mara's chest tightened. "Host, integrated, adapted." The words weren't just technical. They were deliberate. "You're not talking about a child," she said slowly. "No," he replied. Another pulse hit. Sharper this time, more chaotic, and the creature's entire body convulsed slightly, the protective layers tightening further around the core. Mara felt it then. The difference. The smaller signal wasn't just weakening. It was fighting. The man continued, his tone unchanged. "The organism you're defending is not reproducing. It is containing a prototype." The room went still. Not the kind of silence that comes from calm. The kind that comes from understanding something too late. Mara's gaze snapped back to creature, to the flickering glow buried within it. "Prototype?" "No," she whispered. "Yes," the man said. The technician's voice broke in, almost frantic now. "Commander, the energy readings, this doesn't match any known biological development." It's artificial. Partially. Mara's breath caught. That's why the rhythm had been wrong. That's why the pulses didn't align. That's why the creature was failing. It wasn't just trying to save something alive. It was trying to stabilize something that shouldn't exist. You turned it into a power source, she said, the words coming out colder than she expected. An amplifier, the man corrected. A living conduit capable of disabling entire fleets without direct aggression. Valen stared at him. You're saying that thing didn't destroy those ships? The man finally smiled, faint, almost amused. It didn't intend to, he said. Another pulse tore through the chamber, wild now, unstable, and several systems sparked violently before going dark. The creature's body shuddered again, its protective layers beginning to fracture under the strain. Mara stepped forward without thinking, her hand pressing against the outer plating, as if she could feel through it. She's not attacking them, she said, her voice rising. She's trying to get it back. Recovering corporate property, the man replied calmly, stopping a weapon from activating. Mara shot back. The difference mattered, but not to him. Behind him, the containment lattice intensified, narrowing its focus around the unstable core. The technician's voice spiked with alarm. Commander, if they extract that unit now... It won't stabilize, Mara said. The man tilted his head slightly. It will... No, she said, turning to face him fully now, anger burning through every word. It's only stable because she's holding it together. The man didn't respond immediately, but the flicker in his expression said enough. He knew. Of course he knew. We accounted for degradation, he said finally. Extraction will be efficient. Mara shook her head slowly. You don't understand, she said. Another pulse hit. Violent enough this time to knock one of the soldiers off balance. The glow inside the creature flared, then fractured. Two distinct signals split apart, no longer overlapping, no longer synchronized. The smaller one surged wildly, its energy spiking beyond anything the system could contain. The technician shouted over the comms. Commander, the secondary unit is going critical. Valen's eyes widened. All units fall back. No. Mara snapped, stepping closer instead, because now she saw it. The truth. The creature wasn't just protecting the core. It was restraining it. And if that restraint failed, it's not her that's going to destroy the station, Mara said, her voice cutting through the chaos. The man's gaze sharpened. Then what is? He asked. Mara looked back at the flickering. Unstable light tearing itself apart inside the creature's core. And for the first time since this began, she was afraid. That, she said. The smaller signal spiked again. This time, it didn't weaken. It grew. The surge didn't spread outward. It folded on itself, then snapped. A violent distortion ripped through the chamber. Not like an explosion, but like reality itself had been stretched too far and finally recoiled. The air warped, bending light into impossible angles. For a heartbeat, nothing made sense. Distance, sound, gravity, everything fractured. Then the alarms came back all at once. Critical energy breach detected. Core instability at maximum threshold. Structural failure imminent. Mara was already moving. Shut it down, Valen shouted, but his voice was drowned beneath the rising chaos. Behind him, the corporate team accelerated their extraction sequence. Their lattice field intensified, tightening around the unstable core like a cage closing around a collapsing star. And that was a mistake. The moment the field constricted, the smaller signal spiked violently, reacting not with stabilization, but resistance. The creature reacted instantly. Its entire body convulsed, plates grinding, locking, shifting with desperate force as it tried to compensate. The rhythm, once controlled, then strained, now shattered completely into raw, unstable surges. It wasn't a call anymore. It wasn't even a system. It was a battle. Commander, the technician screamed. The secondary unit is rejecting containment. It's amplifying itself. How? Valen demanded. Unknown, the technician replied. It's feeding off the field, turning it back into energy. Mara's heart slammed against her ribs. Of course it was. It wasn't a child. It wasn't even fully alive in the way they understood life. It was designed to adapt, to absorb, to weaponize anything that tried to control it. "You're not containing it," Mara shouted, turning toward the corporate team. "You're powering it." The man didn't respond immediately, but for the first time, the calm certainty in his posture faltered, just slightly. "Disengage the lattice," he ordered sharply. Too late. The smaller signal flared again, brighter than before, its unstable glow tearing through the creature's protective layers in jagged pulses. The massive organism shuddered violently, its structure cracking under the strain as it tried to hold something that was no longer willing to be held. The station groaned. Metal screamed. Gravity shifted in sudden, nauseating waves. Mara stumbled, catching herself against the creature's outer plating. Beneath her hand, she felt it, felt the strain, the desperate resistance, the way the entire organism was pushing back against something that wanted to break free. "She's losing control," Mara whispered. "No," the technician corrected, voice shaking. "She's not losing control." Another pulse detonated inside the chamber, sending a shockwave that knocked several soldiers to ground. "She's running out of it." That was worse, much worse, because if the creature stopped holding the core together, the next surge hit harder. A sharp, piercing frequency tore through the air, bypassing physical barriers, vibrating directly through bone and neural pathways. Mara dropped to one knee, her vision blurring as the sound cut deeper than anything she had ever felt. Not heard, felt. The soldiers cried out, some collapsing, others struggling to stay upright. The corporate team wasn't spared either. Their equipment spark flickered, then failed in rapid succession as the energy feedback overwhelmed their systems. Even the man staggered slightly now, one hand bracing against the wall as the calm facade finally cracked. "What is it doing?" Valen demanded. Mara forced herself to look up, eyes locking onto the unstable glow tearing through the creature's core. "It's adapting," she said, her voice strained. "It's learning." Another surge. Stronger. The lattice field collapsed entirely, shattering into fragments of dead energy that were immediately absorbed by the core. The glow intensified. Brighter. Hotter. More unstable. "Commander!" The technician gasped, barely audible now. "If that energy output continues to scale." "It won't just destroy the station," Mara finished. Her voice dropped. "It'll cascade." Valen's blood ran cold. Define cascade. Mara didn't answer right away, because she didn't need to. Everyone in that room had seen what happened to the fleets. Now they understood why. "It jumps systems," she said finally. "Anything powered, anything active, it spreads through it. A weapon that didn't fire. A weapon that infected. A weapon that turned technology itself into the trigger." Another pulse. The station lights died completely this time. Emergency systems tried to activate, then failed instantly. Darkness swallowed the chamber, except for one thing. The glow, blinding now, uncontrolled, and at the center of it, the creature was still holding on. Barely. Mara pushed herself up, ignoring the dizziness clawing at her senses. Her eyes adjusted to the shifting light, locking onto the massive form in front of her. It was breaking, not physically, functionally. The protective layers were slipping, failing to contain the escalating energy inside. But it wasn't letting go. It was still trying, still holding, still choosing to endure instead of release. "Why?" Valen demanded, his voice cutting through the darkness. "Why doesn't it just let it go?" Mara didn't hesitate, because she knows what happens if she does. Another surge. Closer now. The core flared violently, its energy tearing outward in jagged arcs that scorched through the surrounding structure. The creature reacted instantly, shifting its body again, wrapping tighter, compressing further, sacrificing its own integrity to contain the explosion. Mara felt something inside her chest tighten. Not fear, recognition. That wasn't instinct. That wasn't biology. That was a choice. "She's not just holding it," Mara said, her voice steadier now despite the chaos. "She's fighting it." The technician's voice came back, barely coherent. "Commander, the primary organism's energy reserves are nearly depleted. If it drops below threshold, it won't be able to contain the core," Valen finished. Mara shook her head. No, she said. Everyone looked at her, because there was something else now, something they hadn't considered. She won't be able to survive it. The words settled heavy in the darkness, because now the equation had changed. It wasn't just about stopping the weapon. It wasn't just about saving the station. It was about something else, something far more dangerous. What are you suggesting? Valen asked. Mara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked back at the creature, the massive, breaking organism that had been labeled a threat, a weapon, a target, and saw something else entirely. Something no one else had seen. A being choosing to die, so something worse wouldn't be unleashed. Her jaw tightened. No, she said quietly. The core flared again. This time, it cracked. The crack wasn't physical. It was worse. For a split second, the glow inside the creature didn't just flare. It split into jagged, unstable fragments, each one pulsing out of sync with the others. The rhythm that had once tried to stabilize itself collapsed entirely, replaced by chaotic bursts that tore through the chamber like invisible lightning. And the creature, it faltered, not violently, not dramatically, just enough for the containment to slip. No, Mara breathed. She felt it before she saw it. The shift, the moment the creature's strength dipped below the threshold it had been holding against for so long. The core reacted instantly. A violent surge detonated outward, slamming into the creature's inner layers. The protective structure buckled, segments of its armored form cracking under the pressure as it struggled to reassert control. But it was losing. She can't hold it anymore, the technician shouted, his voice breaking through static and distortion. Primary containment is collapsing. Valen's voice cut in sharp and decisive. All units, fall back. Full evacuation, now. Soldiers moved this time. Training took over where understanding had failed. They began pulling back, retreating toward the exits, dragging the injured, abandoning positions that moments ago they'd been willing to die to defend. The corporate team didn't argue. They ran. Even the man, the one who had walked in with complete certainty, was backing away now, his composure stripped down to cold survival instinct. Only Mara didn't move, because she saw something they didn't. The creature wasn't retreating. It wasn't releasing the core. It was doing something else. Something impossible. It was repositioning. Another surge ripped through the chamber, stronger than the last, sending a shock wave that knocked Mara sideways. She hit the floor hard, pain flaring through her shoulder, but she forced herself up, eyes locking back onto the creature. Wait, she whispered. The massive form shifted again, not outward, not in defense, but around her. Segment by segment, the creature's broken structure realigned, its remaining strength focused in one direction. The damaged plate slid, cracked, reformed, creating a partial barrier between the core and everything else, between the core and the station. Valen saw it too. His voice dropped, stunned. What is it doing? Mara pushed herself to her feet, ignoring the ringing in her ears. She's choosing, she said. Another surge. The core flared violently, sending arcs of unstable energy tearing through the creature's inner structure. The glow intensified, brighter than ever, no longer contained, no longer controlled. The creature's body convulsed, cracked, held. She knows she can't stop it, Mara said, her voice rising with urgency. So she's redirecting it. Redirecting it where? One of the soldiers shouted. Mara didn't answer, because she already knew. The creature's massive form shifted one last time, dragging itself, broken, failing, but still moving, toward the outer hull of the station, toward open space. No, Valen said, realization hitting too late. If it breaches the hull, it takes the blast with it, Mara finished. The chamber went silent, not because the chaos stopped, but because everyone understood what that meant. She's not trying to survive, Mara said. Her voice broke, not from fear, but from something deeper. She's trying to make sure we do. Another surge tore through the structure, this one stronger than anything before. The outer hull groaned, cracked spider-webbing across the reinforced plating as the creature forced itself forward, pushing through collapsing debris, dragging the unstable core with it. The station couldn't take much more. Neither could she. The creature's movement slowed, each one heavier than the last, its energy nearly gone, its structure barely holding together under the strain. And still, it kept going. "Commander!" the technician screamed. "If it breaches now, the decompression alone will—" "Do it!" Valen snapped, his voice cutting through the noise. "Open the outer bay. Give a path." "What?" one of the officers shouted. "You heard me!" Valen barked. "If it's going to take that thing out, we don't trap it in here." The order hit like a shockwave of its own. For a moment, no one moved. Then, they obeyed. Emergency systems flickered to life just long enough to respond. The outer blast doors, damaged and unstable, began to grind open inch by inch, exposing the cold, infinite black beyond. The creature felt it. Mara saw the shift immediately. Not in its body. In the core, the unstable glow surged again, reacting to the change, the exposure, the open void that IT wanted out. It needed out, but it was still bound, still held, still restrained by something that was rapidly failing. Mara's heart pounded, because now she understood the final problem. "She can't release it," Mara said, her voice tight with realization. Valen turned to her. "What?" "She's been holding it too long," Mara said. "It's integrated too deep. If she lets go now—" Another surge exploded inside the chamber, throwing sparks and debris in every direction. "It'll tear her apart before it gets out," Mara finished. The creature staggered. "Just once. Just enough." The core flared violently, its unstable energy pushing outward, trying to break free, but still trapped inside a body that refused to let it go. Time was gone. Options were gone. And for the first time since this began, the creature hesitated. Not in fear. In conflict. Mara saw it, felt it, that moment where instinct, pain, and something deeper collided. "She doesn't know how to let it go," Mara whispered. Valen's expression hardened. "Then she dies with it." Mara's head snapped toward him. "No," she said. Another surge. Closer now. Faster. Everything was unraveling. And in the middle of it, Mara made her choice. She turned back toward the creature and stepped forward. "Mara, don't!" Valen shouted. She didn't stop, because for the first time, she understood something no one else did. The creature wasn't failing because it was weak. It was failing because it was alone. Mara raised her hand, moving toward the fractured opening in its armor, toward the unstable core that threatened to tear everything apart. "If she can't let it go," Mara said, her voice steady despite the chaos. The creature's massive head shifted, its fading glow flickering as it focused on her one last time. "Then I'll help her." The core surged. This time, it broke free. The moment it broke free, the world didn't explode. It went still, not silent, never silent, but suspended, as if reality itself had paused to understand what had just been unleashed. The core hovered in the fractured space between them, no longer contained, no longer restrained by the creature's failing body. And for the first time, it didn't surge. It waited. Mara stood directly in front of it. Every instinct she had screamed at her to run, to drop, to survive, but she didn't move. Her hand remained raised, trembling only slightly, hovering inches from the unstable light that had turned entire fleets into drifting corpses. Behind her, no one breathed. No one spoke, because the thing that had been labeled a weapon was doing something no weapon had ever done. It was hesitating. The creature collapsed behind her, not completely, not dead, but failing. Its massive structure sagged against the torn plating of the station, its glow dimming to scattered embers as the last of its strength drained away. It had done everything it could. Now, it was her turn. Mara took one slow step forward. The core reacted instantly, flaring brighter, unstable energy spiraling outward in jagged arcs, but not striking her. Not yet. She exhaled slowly, forcing her heartbeat into rhythm, forcing herself into calm the same way she'd done 1,000 times before under fire, under pressure, under impossible odds. "Easy," she whispered. The word didn't carry meaning, not in any language the thing understood. But tone was universal. The core flickered, not weaker, different. It shifted its pattern. Unstable pulses trying to form structure, failing, then trying again. It was searching for synchronization, for something to match. Mara understood then what the creature had been doing all along. It hadn't been containing the core. It had been regulating it, giving it rhythm, giving it stability. And now that rhythm was gone. "Stay with me," Mara said softly. She didn't know if it could hear her. She didn't know if it could understand. But she knew one thing. It could respond. She placed her hand against the light. Pain didn't come. Not the way she expected. It was overwhelming, yes, like touching raw energy, like pressing against the heart of something far too powerful to comprehend. But beneath that, there was something else. Something chaotic. Something unfinished. Her body reacted instinctively, muscles tightening, breath catching. But she didn't pull away. Instead, she did the one thing no one else in that room would have ever thought to do. She matched it. Her heartbeat, her breathing, her rhythm. Slow, deliberate, controlled. "Listen," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Not to them, not to the noise. Just this. Another pulse flickered through the core. Wild, unstable. Then it shifted, just slightly. The arcs of energy softened, the jagged edges smoothing as the chaotic surges began to align. Imperfectly, unevenly, but enough. Mara felt it immediately. The resistance lessened. Not gone, but changing. Behind her, the technician's voice broke through, trembling with disbelief. "Commander!" The energy output, it's stabilizing. Valen didn't respond. He was watching something he didn't understand. Something no weapon, no protocol, no training had prepared him for. A human, standing in front of a system designed to destroy entire fleets. And calming it, the core pulsed again. This time, in rhythm. Not perfect, not complete, but closer. Mara smiled, faintly despite the strain pulling at every nerve in her body. "That's it," she whispered. "You're not alone." The light flickered once more, then surged. Not outward, inward. The chaotic energy compressed, folding back into itself as the unstable feedback loop collapsed. The arcs vanished. The distortion faded. The overwhelming pressure that had been building toward catastrophic release stopped. The core dimmed. Not dying. Stabilizing. Mara exhaled sharply, her legs nearly giving out beneath her as the tension finally broke. Behind her, the creature stirred. Weak, fading, but alive. Its massive head shifted slightly, its dim glow focusing on the stabilized core, and then on Mara. Recognition. Not instinct. Not reaction. Something deeper. Mara turned slowly, her hand still resting against the now stable light. "She's okay," she said softly. The creature didn't move much. It didn't need to, because the rhythm, the one that had been breaking, failing, collapsing, returned, faint, weak, but steady. The station lights flickered back to life. Systems rebooted. The crushing tension that had filled every corner of the chamber dissolved into something else entirely. Relief. The corporate team didn't speak. They didn't move. For the first time since they had arrived, they had nothing. No control. No leverage. No weapon. Because the thing they had built, the thing they had tried to own, was no longer theirs. Valen stepped forward slowly, his gaze fixed on Mara, then on the creature, then on the stabilized core. "What is it now?" he asked. Mara looked back at him, then down at the light beneath her hand, then at the massive beam behind her that had nearly torn itself apart to protect it. And finally, she answered. "It's not a weapon," she said. The core pulsed softly. Steady. Alive. It never was. The creature let out a low, resonant sound, faint, exhausted, but unmistakably different from before. Not pain, not fear, something closer to release. Mara stepped back slowly, giving it space. The core remained stable, its light soft now, no longer tearing at the world around it. And for a moment, everything held. Not perfect, not safe, but no longer on the edge of annihilation. Valen exhaled slowly, lowering his weapon. Around him, soldiers followed, not out of command, out of understanding. Mara turned once more toward the creature, her voice quiet but certain. "You held on," she said. The creature's glow flickered faintly. In response, And now, you don't have it anymore. The rhythm continued, soft, steady, and for the first time since the alarms began, the station wasn't listening to a warning. It was listening to something alive.